Hey there, I'm Ben Frisch from Get Digital Support and the South Georgian Bay and Grey County Digital Service Squads here with another webinar for you. We're going to run through video and photography on a budget. Before we get started though, just a quick word about Digital Main Street in case you haven't heard about it. This is an Ontario-wide program, offering not only financial support, there's grants and other programs like Shop Here, where you can get a free website, an e-commerce website built for you for free. And there's also the digital service squads, regional teams all across Ontario and even in Alberta and stuff. But locally here, we service the South Georgian Bay area around Collingwood, and then also we service Grey County as well, managed by the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center here in Collingwood, and then the Grey County Business Development Center and Business Enterprise Center in Grey County. And it's an amazing program. So if you haven't connected with us, definitely be sure to book those consultations. We're going to have the booking link at the end of the webinar here. But it should be noted that March 31st, 2024 is our contract end date. And that's just around the corner. So definitely get those bookings in while you can, and we'll be happy to help you and in your digital marketing endeavors. So speaking of digital marketing endeavors, and let's just get into our video and photography on a budget. Now, the key word here being on a budget, and that's really why we are focusing on using your smartphone. We do get asked this a lot. Do I need a fancy new camera? While, there's a lot to say about the quality of a mirrorless or digital a DSLR camera, more and more, the smartphone in your pocket is becoming more advanced, and the quality coming out of these devices is perfect for, most businesses in the needs that they have for creating social media content. So we're going to talk about how to make the most out of this device without having to go out and spend a ton of money. We are going to talk about, a few budget-friendly different add-ons, tools and accessories, as well as apps that can sort of take your photography and video to the next level. But before that, we're going to just talk about, sort of the overall benefits of using your smartphone. Of course, it should go without saying. It's small, it's light, it's convenient, it's always on you. It allows you to share your photos and videos on social media instantly. Some apps even favor the use of your mobile device for uploading. So I know for us, like, sometimes we'll have to, even when we are shooting on a DSLR or a video camera, we have to download the footage, create the project, then upload it to the cloud, download it onto a phone, and then post it. So no one really wants to do that. It's not convenient. And so by creating the content on your phone directly, it just really streamlines that process. And not only that, there's some backup options there too. If you have, especially like an iPhone, it might automatically be backed up to the cloud. But then also, Google Drive, other things like that are good options when it comes to backing up your content of your phone. And so it even, can be deleted so it doesn't take up more room on your physical device. And, there's an opportunity to help you improve your skills, just like anything with your phone. Especially because it's always on you, you're more likely to take that out and use it. So let's talk about improving those skills. And how it forces you to work with the limitations of your phone and camera. However, again, a lot of those limitations are going away. You know, the more we see advancements in phone camera technology and stuff, those limitations are fading, really. So things like low megapixel count, stabilization, these are all being built into your phone. Even multiple lenses, you know, that's a trend in the last couple of years we've really seen take off, where instead of having just one lens on the back of your phone, now you have 3 or 4. And so what these are for is for capturing wide angle telephoto or just like a standard view. And again, that's just really expanding the capacity of this device. The other thing is, you know, using your phone allows you to experiment with different styles, effects, using editing apps. We're going to talk about more of those as well. It enables you to learn from other photographers by sharing your photos on social media platforms and sharing communities, and can help you practice your craft every day. Again, just having it in your pocket. The convenience factor of the phone is just really unmatched. I know a lot of like professional photographers that complain about, you know, they have thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but when it comes to just like capturing stuff for social media, they are just so inclined to just pull out their phone because of the convenience factor of that. So with that in mind, I got to jump around here on the screen with my thumbnail. But yeah, let's talk about improving some of those skills with some just general tips and tricks here. So when it comes to composition and layout, there's a really simple rule of thirds principle that allows you to, or the idea behind it is, you know, create a grid of grid lines on your phone that will divide the image into 3 horizontal, 3 vertical sections. And by placing the subject of your photo on one of the 4 intersecting points, it's a way of creating just a more appealing composition. So the reason for this is just like, you have to think about eye movement when it comes to what makes an image pleasing. And typically when your subject is just smack dab in the middle of the image, your eye will just go to that for sure. But then there's like nowhere else for your eye to move after that. You know, you've seen the subject and there's really nothing else to see. Whereas if you see the example of the flower, I don't know if you might not be able to see the grid lines on this particular image here, but the big flower in the top there is right on that cross section of grid lines, and by offsetting it in that way, it allows your eye to move around the outside of it and take in more of the image. And eventually, like, what'll happen is your eye will come right back around to that subject, and that's what we want. We want to just like create this movement of interest and keep people engaged in the photo, and that's one way to do it. The other thing is using lead lines. So using lead lines is the use of natural lines or shapes, things like a river, a guide that guide the eye towards your main subject. So yeah, again, it's just like the river up in this image here, where we see that kind of drawing you in. And you know, ideally you might have like a little bit more of a subject at the end of that river. But I mean, with the landscape, you know, we're kind of taking in the whole scene here. And if you were to put a grid line over top of that too, you'd probably see like the river kind of goes towards that part of the rule of third kind of grid line. I'm going to just pop out of here too so you can see as well. Framing, so this thumbnail here uses elements in a scene like trees or surrounding parts of an image to draw the eye to your subject. So you can, think about framing a subject with a door, with a window, other things, around that can just keep that composition a little bit more interesting than just a straight snapshot of our subject. Again, just right in the middle, doesn't leave or give a lot of interest when it comes to how that's laid out, or make it unique either, right? Like these are all examples of like a unique kind of perspective that has a lot more thought behind it. So furthermore, we suggest conveying depth, and there's a couple of different ways to do that. But essentially, I mean, it's just including objects in the foreground, middle, and background all at once. The framing is another way of doing that too. But you can do it with even just like moving a houseplant or something into the foreground and creating some depth in your image. The viewpoint, so think about shooting from a different angle. So up, down, challenge yourself to change your usual viewpoint. Again, it's about really just keeping it interesting, providing a unique perspective of your subject that's just not your just everyday kind of standard viewpoint, and making it interesting. So I think these are some really good examples of looking up, even framing in that Fairmont image, and even a little bit of framing too of the person on the stairs, as well as lead lines, right? So we have like almost all of the that one's a great example of almost all of the principles that we've discussed. We've got lead lines with the stairs pointing to that person. They're framed within the building structure there. And again, I bet if you put a rule of thirds grid line on top of that, they wouldn't necessarily be on the intersection, but they're going to be on that line, on one of those two lines going vertically, and that's what you want instead of just putting them straight in the middle. Keep it interesting, and you'll notice like your eye just kind of moves around a lot more within that, taking it all in. So here's something else to really kind of consider is aspect ratios. So common aspect ratios are essentially the format or the shape of the frame that you are capturing in. So an easy one to understand is Instagram, right? 1:1 is a square. That's great for your Instagram feed, for example. 16:9 is more of a standard video format. It's also like a standard mobile. You can shoot in 16:9 with photographs with your mobile phone, just because it is a very standard aspect ratio. And here's the thing too about aspect ratios, even square. So you can select the aspect ratio, or usually from your settings in your camera's, your phone's settings when you're in the camera app of your phone. Check that out, because so if you think about it, like if you shoot an image as a square ratio, then it is in that format already, and you don't have to, make any crops or edits to get it to Instagram. Now, I mean, Instagram will, I mean, you make that edit right in the app, so it's easy. But if you're like, let's say you're handing it off to someone else to upload, and if you want to be very specific about how it's cropped, again, just shooting it in that format just eliminates the guesswork. It's going to be exactly that same thumbnail or that same image in that format, and it eliminates any of the like sort of guesswork or errors that might occur in that sort of cropping editing phase. And so, yeah, with that, I mean, you can set your aspect ratio to any of these choices in your phone when taking images. I mean, I think a lot of times, most default is probably 16:9 these days. Mobile phone cameras do often shoot in the 4:3 range, just because that's kind of a standard for cameras as well. 3.2 being DSLR, mirrorless, and compact cameras. But again, it doesn't really make much of a difference as well, as long as you are you're okay with the output and you are using it for the right purpose. And again, if it is causing any issues, or if it can be more convenient to shoot in a different aspect ratio, just check it out in your settings and you can change it. So let's talk about some other basic techniques. So focusing and exposure, and I'll mention, exposure being the amount of light in the image. The one that I'm sort of blocking here a little bit is a good example of like an overexposed image, meaning that there's too much light coming in, so you're getting washed out, they call it, with your whites just kind of overflowing into everything else, and you're losing a lot of color detail. So it's really, I mean, it's obviously a result that you don't want. So what you want to do is just make sure the subject is in focus and activated by a tap on the screen. So this is a really great tip that a lot of people don't realize or don't know about, which is that when you are taking a photo, if you actually just tap the screen, on your subject, it will not only focus, but then expose the lighting for that subject, instead of like trying to, because I think by default it will just be trying to capture the whole scene, or set up for the whole scene. But if you tap on it, it will adjust for that particular subject, and you'll improve your results greatly just with that one simple tap of the screen. And then a lot of them too will have an adjustment too, so you can tap and then you can adjust the exposure, bringing it up or down with like a little slider, which is kind of handy too. And then, when it comes to like lighting for your subjects, you want to look for the best light. If you're shooting a portrait, something like this example here, you want to, dusk, dawn, these are great times of day. Cloudy days, overcast days are nice, softer lights for portraits. Sunny days are good for things like real estate, or just sort of like shooting buildings and that kind of thing. But for nice soft light, cloudy days are better in the shade, or if you're indoor shooting next to a window, or putting a subject, right beside a window, is a fantastic way. Not shooting with the window behind the person, but if there's a window here, and actually I'm getting some light from this window, that's not terribly appealing, but it's just because the sun's kind of shining through and the blinds and leaving some marks. But essentially, you want it off to the side, casting light on your subject, because what that does is it really softens it, and it's not super harsh. But again, you don't you don't want that light source behind them. That's when you get you'll overexpose kind of thing, or the one thing phones are not so good at is what's called dynamic range, meaning bright whites and shadows are all very even. Often what happens, I mean, they're getting better, actually. I should say that again too. Like it blows my mind sometimes to see like a picture of someone in front of a sunset, when you can see the sunset in the background. Usually what will happen is the sunset will be super bright and the subject will be very dark, because they're quite different in exposure and the amount of light on your subject, because the light's behind them. So, but like I was saying, more and more I'm seeing some incredible results from, modern phones that can shoot a scene like that of a sunset with someone standing in front of it, and the person is visible and well lit, and the sunset is not super bright white, but it'll like have a lot of detail. That's an example of a high dynamic range, again, is what that's called. So just food for thought there in terms of the capabilities of your phone. So let's talk about some shooting modes. This is another great reason to utilize your smartphone. They have a lot of modes, auto modes, and manual modes that you can take advantage of. So depending on your phone, of course, but you can try exploring things like night mode, live focus, portrait. I think those are all pretty self-explanatory when and where you'd use those, for portrait mode, night mode, etc. Macro is for taking pictures of close-up objects. So whenever you want to get like really close up to something and have it sort of fill the frame, this is something, great for product photography, and things like that, where you really want to capture the object close up, get as much detail as possible. So if you're doing product photos, try that macro mode. There's other things like time lapse video is great, especially for like construction businesses, or anything where you're building something or setting something up. This can be a really great feature to create some content, as well as slow-mo. There's, sometimes like a cinematic mode, and as well as just your standard video modes. Pano meaning panoramic, is kind of cool. Less for social media, because again, if we talk about aspect ratios, a panoramic is obviously like a very long, narrow aspect ratio. And so the applications for that are few and far between. Facebook could be one place that you could upload that, although you're probably better off doing like a 360 image or video, so that people can actually like look around and see the whole 360 degrees of that scene. But then you'll also have things like pro mode. So going into pro will be giving you the opportunity to really like actually play with your camera's phone as if it were a DSLR or mirrorless camera. Meaning, you can set the aperture, the white balance, the ISO, and the shutter speed. I'm not gonna get into like what all those things mean, but essentially, like these are settings that professional photographers know and use all the time, and by playing with those, you can get some more creative results potentially. But I'd say for the most part, like auto mode is perfectly fine for most people. And then yes, sports, action, and even raw mode. So again, raw mode, more for like professional photographers. If you have Photoshop, shooting in RAW gives you, for one, it gives you massive file sizes, but it's because it's capturing so much data, so that it makes editing the photos way easier, and more flexible too. Like, so you have just an ability to like push contrast and push the colors, where traditional like JPEGs don't allow you for that kind of editing. So again, not for everyday use, more for the professionals, or if you have Photoshop, might be something to play with. So let's talk about editing your images. And again, keeping, budget and time in consideration. Doing it right in your camera is probably the easiest, most effective way to do that. And it doesn't even have to be a third-party app. So a lot of phones will come, like the camera app itself will have some level of editing in terms of basic things like you can crop, you can add filters, you can adjust your brightness, exposure, contrast, saturation, color, mess with the colors quite a lot, and change the white balance. And I think I should probably mention too, so white balance refers to, just that. So, my thumbnail here is a kind of a good example where you can see, I've got some white pieces of paper. Actually, you know what? I'll come back to the white balance thing because I've talked about it with lights. Color temperature is essentially all we're talking about. And when we get into accessories, I'm talking about lights, and I think that's a better place to mention that. So anyway, moving on. Basically, your phone has some ability to edit your photos right there, and just makes it really convenient. It's worth noting though that no amount of editing will make up for poor composition or blurry photos or videos. So again, just that simple tap on the image to make sure that you're focusing on the subject is can save a photo or video, just by making sure that it's in focus. So Instagram is also a fantastic place to make a lot of those edits. They can, you can do it right in the app. Again, not having to download another software. That's kind of awesome. But you can add filters. You can adjust alignment, turn it. Same as your phone, your phone's app. You can do brightness, contrast, sharpness, warmth, mess with the colors. You can do highlights, shadows, add a vignette, all kinds of things. I usually, this is something I usually do as well, is just kind of tweak the images, even when I'm taking them on, a camera, and editing them in Photoshop. I will usually even do a little bit of tweaking to those edits in Instagram, just because for one, it's a different device. Looking at and editing a photo on a computer screen is quite a lot different from seeing it on a phone. And so it's when I'm uploading and I'll look at it and say, oh, it could be brighter or could have more contrast. And so I end up still editing it in Instagram regardless. And it's also worth noting that posts will allow you to, a post carousel will allow you to upload up to 10 images. And you can edit every single one of them, which is pretty cool. And then a story will allow you to create a collage layout of up to 6 images. And again, edit each of them, changing all those different settings and things. So just some other photo editing tools to make note of. So these are sort of third-party apps that you can check out. If not all of them, I think most of them are free or have a free option. So anyway, Snapseed is one, VSCO is one, Prisma Photo Editor, Adobe Photoshop Express, and Foodie. So that Foodie was an interesting one because it's like a food specific editing app. So if you run a restaurant or a bakery or something like that, that could be one to check out. Like it might offer some unique sort of tools specific to your industry. So some other editing tools for video. iMovie is one for Apple devices. KineMaster, Power Director, InShot, Premiere Rush, and Filmora Go are options to check out. Also, I think actually we meant to add CapCut. CapCut is a very popular editing app for like TikTokers, social media influencers use that a lot. So definitely check that one out as well. And here we go. Let's talk about lenses or accessories. And we're going to cover a bunch of things. I mean, lenses, I think, are... Well, a couple things. So they're becoming less and less necessary. As I mentioned earlier, like our phones now are becoming equipped with things like telephoto and macro and wide angle lenses. So the need to add these on is sort of dying out. However, it's worth mentioning these are available if you were, interested in exploring something a little bit different. I mean, in this example, actually, we do see a lens attached to the front of the camera, which, that makes sense. We don't actually have more than one lens on the front of the camera. So if you still want to shoot, this way so you can see yourself and make sure you're in the frame, but maybe you want a wide angle lens, that could be an option for you to get that functionality. Tripods and mounts, these are really important, I think. So it can be a way to just like stabilize your camera. It could be a way to avoid, always having your arm outstretched and getting that angle. You can, the tripod here at the bottom, just behind my thumbnail, I'll move up here, but just this one down here, is called, I think it's like a Gorilla Pod or Gorilla Tripod or something it's called. But anyway, those flexible ones are great, especially for, on the go. You can just like wrap that around a banister, wrap it around a tree or something, and kind of set up and get those really unique angles. without having to lug big gear around with you. So I highly recommend, like checking out tripods and these kinds of accessories. Again, so you're not always just holding your phone out in front of your face. You can get a little bit more creative with it. And again, these are not expensive. The just the clip to mount onto a tripod, they're like $10-15. And the other thing is, like they're good for other applications, like again, panoramas could be a use for that. Macro is really important, making getting in close to something and making sure you're taking the same shot over and over again if you need to, as well as low light. So low light photography requires it will require a longer shutter speed, meaning the camera's trying to let more light in by opening the shutter for a longer period of time, which means that if that's why actually if you've noticed like your nighttime shots come out blurry, it's because you're trying to hold it steady and it's trying to take a longer exposure shot, but you're moving without even when you might be trying to hold it steady, but you're still moving. So it's that's why your shots are blurry. So putting it on a tripod will make sure that night shots, no matter how dark, are really steady and sharp. Okay, so let's talk about lights. I'll move myself again. I'm getting all over the place. But lights can also be really important. And like up your production value significantly. Your mobile device probably has a flash or LED kind of built into it, but it's not the most flattering, especially when it's shot straight on. Whereas lighting accessories will help you expand and enhance the lighting quality of your stills and videos. Just really quick, placement is important as well. So, talking about the flash, like right in your face kind of thing, not the most flattering. I mentioned a window off to the side. Again, as long as there's not this really annoying blind light coming through, it's kind of driving me crazy. But what I have here in my office at my desk is a permanently mounted, not a ring light, but it's a round, soft light. Even has a handy remote control, which is super, super cool. Because I can just turn this on and off. I can change the settings without having to get up and deal with it. So again, if you're shooting things from a distance, things like that can really be handy. Ring lights are also, really popular. Typically those do, you can put them sort of right in your face. That's why like this, we've got this example here of the camera mounted right in the middle so that you can film yourself and position yourself like sort of front and center with that light and within the frame of the video. And the good thing about those, like why they're so popular, they just create that soft, even lighting that just kind of makes it look that much cleaner, that much nicer. But I'm more a fan of like offsetting it, so putting it up to the side, so we do still get a little bit of shadow in some areas. I think is kind of nice. The one thing about my office, though, I do have pot lights that I can't turn off. So that becomes a challenge. But with that in mind, like let's talk about the white balance. So I mentioned before, these pieces of paper is what we're referring to with white balance. Is like what color is the white in your photo. So when it comes to lights, there's two there's like the warm temperature, and then there's the cool temperature. So the warmer being more yellow tone, and the cooler being white or blue, well, blue color on the other end of the spectrum. And there's a lot of things to think about when with this in mind. For most video situations, a white light is preferred. The white light is a it's closer to your the sunlight, the daylight, and it won't distort your colors of your image, so your skin tones and that kind of thing. The yellow tone is the reason why you'd want a light with a yellow tone is to just match other lighting in the room. So, I talked about the pot light in my office that I can't turn off. I guess I could unscrew it if I really wanted to. But for the sake of this example, I mean, because I have this light over here and a pot light over here, what we don't want is having two different color temperatures. So this one's a warmer tone, more yellow, and luckily this one is adjustable. So what that allows me to do is change that one to match the pot light, so that we're not getting conflicting lighting colors, because that again can really mess up like the look of skin tones. Sometimes I find you get a little bit greenish skin tones when you do sort of mix those two colors, because I mean essentially you're mixing yellow and blue light, that makes green. So that's what you don't want. But again, going back to the paper, when you are shooting video, if you even hold up a piece of paper, that's how a lot of like video cameras will, you can adjust your white balance by just telling it like this is what's considered pure white, and that will set the temperature so that your colors are all looking correct and nice. And so I think mine, it might be a little off, but it's just a webcam. So all that to say, video lights, there's two color considerations, but the best thing is a bi-colored light, meaning it's adjustable. So that's what I have up here. And those are, in my opinion, sort of the better option. They do tend to be a little bit more expensive just because it's a add-on feature kind of thing, but in my opinion, it's definitely worth it. So that's all I got to say about lighting accessories. Up next is gimbals and rigs. So a rig is essentially like a piece of equipment, basically just to like put around your phone. So this one right here is an example of a rig where you've got your phone mounted into it, and you have something else to hold on to. So there's a couple of reasons for that. Is one, it gives you better grip of the phone, because just holding on to this sometimes is really easy to slip out of your hands. So having better grip of it, and then other mounting points, so you can have something to mount a light onto, or a microphone. And the other thing too, having your hands further out and more stable, it's going to give you more stable footage. It's going to allow you to have just better stability of your camera, which will just result in better quality footage. So that's a rig. The other thing is a gimbal. So a gimbal will essentially add stabilization to your video footage, and that's when you're moving around. When you are moving around, if you're walking or panning around, a gimbal just helps to keep your camera completely steady and smooth. They're really amazing tools. Probably, though, one of the most expensive accessories on this list. And not for everybody. I mean, again, really just for video, and video that's, moving around a lot. So real estate agents would probably have something like this. And I can't really think of any other business that would really need it. So just something to consider there. But definitely a very cool accessory to have. I will say, though, too, again, with the advancements in phones and things, the built-in stabilization that phones have now is almost, making these kind of gimbals obsolete. So that's something to keep in mind, is that, like, there is stabilization in most phones, and so just make sure it's turned on. I had a situation once where I'd realized it was turned off for a long time, like weeks and months, and I was always wondering why my video footage was not very stable. The setting was just turned off. So have a look for that setting. Turn on your stabilization, and you probably don't need to buy a gimbal. But one thing you probably should buy, if there's one thing, I mean, I'd say tripod, yes. Lighting, maybe. Windows can do amazing things, or shooting outdoor. But microphone is also like almost an absolute must. And they don't have to be complicated. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but there are some, like, just wired solutions that can just connect, a lavalier mic to your smartphone. These are really budget friendly. And what they're going to do is just boost the quality of your sound. And sound is almost one of the most important things when it comes to just like conveying a message in your videos. And yeah, I mean, if there's anyone talking, like, it's so vitally important that they are speaking clearly and people can hear them. So definitely, invest in a microphone if you're doing any kind of talking in your videos. And then lastly, just some other accessories to mention. Remote shutter control could be worth exploring. That is to, if you're taking pictures of yourself, but you want to do it from a distance, that can allow you to just like, hit that. You don't have to point it at it probably, but even if you're just like, have it at your side and taking those photos, that can be really handy thing for, shooting videos when you're by yourself, or photos, that is. With that too, I will say too, some smart watches. I mean, this is not a terribly budget friendly option, but I know, like, if you have an Apple Watch and an Apple iPhone, you can control your camera from your watch. So again, if you already have them, that's a great approach. As well as, so battery packs are also an important consideration. Get even more life out of your phone with an add-on battery pack. Especially if you are taking a lot of video, high quality video, having a battery pack to keep you going can be almost completely necessary, or it is necessary. You just don't want to be caught, with your phone dying and in a great shot, or still lots of content to create. So having that battery pack can just give you that extra juice and get and just sort of allow you to complete as much as you need to. And then lastly, just it's important to note the importance of visual storytelling. So more engaging, memorable, and shareable than plain text, like visual storytelling, that is. It can convey your brand personality, values, and message in a way that resonates with your audience. It can communicate complex or abstract ideas in a simple and clear way that your audience can understand and relate to. And can motivate your audience to take next steps in their journey, whether it's buying your products or signing up for your service or joining your cause. You want to use visuals to tell your story and promote your business. And hopefully we've given you the tips and tools to create better visuals for your business. And that is our webinar. Thank you for sticking around, and we hope you found this helpful. Again, we do have our, I'm just jumping around all over here. So here's our contact information. We do have our booking calendar linked there. And as I said, we are around until March 31st, 2024 as the Digital Service Squad. We will still be around too beyond that, but the free service and consulting is ending at that time. So be sure to book those before March 31st. Otherwise, we'll see you in another webinar. Bye for now. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one.